Broadcasting live from New York City. Brought to you by Global Wealth Office at Nest Seekers International and Classique Moderne. This is Peace and Good Wealth. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Colin and Perry. How is everyone doing? Hope everybody is well. Give me a thumbs up again, Colin. Good. Ken is not with us today. He is in Miami, laying out on the sun and representing Global Wealth in the Miami, boat show. But who we have today is an amazing, amazing guest. Not just because she's my friend, but because she is really an amazing person. She is also along with her brother Luca, is the founding partner for Nest Seekers Italia. So there is no better person to talk about Italy than my very good friend, Sara Traverso.
Ciao Loi.
Ciao Sara, come stai?
Ciao Perry, ciao Colin. Very, very good. Very, very well. And thank you so much for having me and to welcoming me with this delicious glass of wine.
Of course.
Truly appreciate it.
There is no Italian conversation without a glass of wine, as you know. So Sarah, we're going to talk about Italy today. But before we do, let's talk about you. Tell the people who don't know you as well as we do a little bit of your background and not just experience, but also, your family in Italy, etc.
So I'm Italian, obviously, and I grew up in a real estate family. Actually, was the only one not really interested in this business. But then when I moved to New York, I fell in love with real estate. And so now, along with my brother, I have the privilege to sell luxury property in what I believe are the most beautiful city in the world, which is New York, and the country that is Italy.
Absolutely.
So we have like a big team of agents in Italy who represent property from the Alps to the island. We came from over 4 decades of experience in real estate market. And also we have a department specialized on luxury rentals of villas in the most beautiful place in Italy with a concierge service. So from the transportation to book the best restaurant in the area and et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. It is full service. And that's really interesting because when we talk about Italy, we always, obviously Italy has been known, throughout, the centuries as the place, destination place for tourists, right? Mm-hmm. It's known, there are certain
it's the
places.
most visited country
yes, and it's, and we have, the well-known places like Florence and Rome and Milan and Venice, right? And Sicily and all of these places. And they're very good. But what's changed lately is that there are a lot of people who are thinking of moving, to Italy. I think part of it was, there was some talk about, okay, I'll give you €1 and you go buy a house and you build this house in Italy. And of course, a lot of the people are very naive. Even my relatives are asking me, is that real? But, building a house, takes some time and takes a lot of effort. But there is a very serious interest in living in Italy from all over the place. Certainly in from the United States. Why is that? Why Italy? Why now?
Look, Italy has always been like a destination from foreign buyers. Mostly seeking like quality of life and lifestyle. It's often referred as la Dolce Vita for a reason. But lately, the government has created a combination of opportunities to attract a very wide range of buyers. So in the intent of attract this foreign capital, For big player, there is like a government incentive that in the past, developers of big institution, um, they didn't want to invest to Italy because there was like a very difficult bureaucracy. Now the government is giving like the opportunity, first of all, to get tax incentive, and then to be partner with the government in developing condo, hotels, and student house to regenerate, revitalize the historical property in Italy. So what before it took like a year to get the permits, now in few months you have the permits done and you can start the business, plus tax incentive.
Right.
For people who just want to move to Italy and live there 6 months, a year, or retire that, there is a very specific visa that not require any investment. You just need to show the government that you have income enough to maintain yourself. Can be 30,000 up to 100, depending which city do you decide to live, without an investment. For those instead who wants to create a business, do business in Italy, do business in Europe, there is like the investor visa. With a 250,000 investment, you are allowed to live in Italy as much you want and do business. Another incentive that generates like a lot of interest in Italy, only because of the flat tax. In 2024, more than 4,000 foreigner people moved their residence in Italy. The flat tax is a game changer for wealth people for two reasons. First of all, to strategically allocate the asset, because for any asset outside of Italy, there is a tax-free inheritance real estate and donation on any kind of asset abroad. And the second reason is that for any income abroad, you just pay the tax in Italy, a flat tax once a year of 200,000 euro. These benefits can be extended to the relative, and they want to pay 25,000 a year, and it has a duration of 15 years. So like visa program, flat tax, and these incentive government are attracting very diverse kind of people that can combine, create value, create wealth, and have a really good life.
Right, and that's actually a very smart strategy for the Italian government to really take, because when we think about living and working, it's changed now. Before, wherever you were, that's where you worked, that's where you lived. But a lot of businesses now are global. A lot of businesses are also mobile. And so if you are an ultra high net worth client, $200,000, €200,000 tax is nothing, right? And so you could, literally be in living in a Lake Como and be able to work over there and be able to stay over there, and be able to pay, the tax.
So you don't pay tax in your own country, you pay the taxes in Italy. And just to give you an example about also the taxation, like the inheritance taxation, in most of the places in Europe, it's like 20 up to 60%, which is a lot.
Yes.
So as of now, Italy is a paradise on that side.
And I think that's the always the argument, even here in the U.S. is, like if you're inheriting something, you're already paying taxes, before you even got to enjoy.
Sometimes better don't start it.
Yeah, before you even enjoy it. Now let's talk about as an investment. Before we talk about living there, as a resident, being part of the community, as an investment, what types of returns on investment are we looking at?
Look, there is a very dynamic short-term rental market, which in Italy generates every year over 11 billion. We have occupancy rate of tourists in a ranging of 80-85%. So like most of the people right now, they are buying, they are using the house 3-4 months, and then they rent it out. Like it can be like a dynamic rent. So like the return of the investment, it's very high. It can be like from 6
So
up
it's a
to
like a
12,
guaranteed,
20. Correct,
rental. Yes.
guaranteed rental, yes. For those more conservative, but definitely like in the city of art, you rent the apartment of the property the whole year. And also the vacation season, now it's become even longer. Like you rent from March up to November, and then during the holidays, Christmas holidays.
Ex- how about August? August in Italy, there's
August,
no Italian.
good luck, good luck.
It's
In August, there are all the Italians that are on vacation.
Yes, exactly.
All of them, all of us.
Yes.
And plus all the tourists. So, like, good luck with that.
So we've talked about all of these investments, and then there's the other part, which is as residences, right? And this is it's not new. There's always been people moving to Italy to reside there because they like the way of life. They like the traditions. Obviously, they love the food. They love the region, etc. But I think more so now, we are looking at people that really, especially in the U.S., they're a little bit tired of the grind of life. And they want to be somewhere where they could really enjoy, the life, not just the views, which, you can get in, some island somewhere as well, right? But Italy is especially known for La Dolce Vita, as you said, right? It's like really enjoying every minute of life, and also understanding the beauty of the everyday, in anything that they do, whether it's in the architecture, which we see all over Italy, which is different in different regions, or in the the vineyards of Tuscany, and all of it's reflected there. It's all part of it. They it's not separate from what they do and how they live. Architecture wise, where's what region is really popular now with people who are looking to move there, even whether for a short time or for permanently.
But look, also in the destination, we have seen like changes, like in the past years. Like before, the prime destination were like cities of art, Milan mainly for business, Lake Como, La Riviera, Ligure. But now there are some places that are really like attracting a lot of people, like Puglia. It's like it's amazing. Like you can really buy a property for a very low price, and like you are surrounded by the nature. The sea is beautiful, the food is unbelievable, and it's very authentic. As long with Umbria, for example. Umbria before it was all about Tuscany, 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 Tuscany. In Umbria, you can find mostly the same landscaping. It's much more authentic and price-wise, like are much more interesting. Like there are many, for example, celebrities who, in the past 2 years, they invest and they bought property over there in Umbria, Sicily. And this area also, I think they are becoming more and more demanded, also because there was an intensification of flights to this destination.
Direct flights, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that
yeah.
before was like kind of more difficult
Right.
to go there. When you have to rent the car and the boat and blah, blah, blah. There are so many new flights from the US that they go to Sicily, to Puglia, like every day. Like in the past 2 weeks, they had 2 flights, one for Sicily, another one for Puglia.
And also, in addition, the trains in Italy are really fantastic. As we were talked about before, you can have a breakfast in Milan and lunch in Rome, and and
Dinner in Venice.
dinner in Venice. It's just all of these are they're inexpensive. They're very quick, and I think for the people who have not been to Italy, or maybe they have only been to one part of Italy, for people to understand that different regions of Italy are very different, not just in the architecture, but also in the food, in the culture, in the dialect, right? In the, different languages, it's all different. It's not
They
all
don't understand each other from one town
right.
to the other one.
No, it's like if you think that fettuccine alfredo, is the pasta, then you don't know as much about Italy because it's not.
Correct.
Even with pasta, there are people who they're all different kinds of pasta, different types of sauces, different types of all of those things. And what I've learned, traveling through Italy is that wherever you go in Italy, there is wherever you are in whatever region you are in or whatever town you're in, they consider as sort of like their home, and then they will say to you, and the rest is Italy, right? It's not
I'm
like
familiar with that.
it's not like Italy. So you go. I remember getting a porchetta in Florence, and there were two sauces, and I said which one is better, and he said well this one's Florentine, and this one's Italians like. He said if you go to Milan, this is for Milan, and the other one's the Italians like because of the different estates in Italy before, and there is a very very strong connection and loyalty and pride for whatever region somebody is from, right? Whether you're from the south or you're from the north, whatever that specific region is, whether it's Puglia, or Liguria or whatever, it is very strong, and they keep that that pride and identity. I was talking to somebody today. There isn't. I don't think I've ever met an Italian who is not proud to be an Italian. It's the very first thing to say. I'm Italian, right? It's part of the DNA, and there's certainly a lot of things to be proud of. Italy, is you know not only it's well known for all of the art. It's well known for all of the beautiful architecture, but also the people don't understand the architecture and the art also were the same. Those same people were inventors. They were engineers way ahead of their time. We've learned a lot about engineering, about how to construct buildings. Through thanks to a lot of the Italian investors. We also what I've learned in Rome, very recently, which I didn't realize, is that Italians were recycling before there was recycling, right? So the Colosseum, the melting of the Colossus, right? Of the statue, that's repurposed. The marble that they've used in some other things, they're repurposed for other things. So Italians were thinking about ecology and environment and engineering and sustainability way before anybody else was doing.
Yeah,
And
very creative,
yeah,
innovating, like problem solving.
yes, exactly. I mean, and there's the things that the fountains that don't use pumps are still working today, thousands of years later, right? And I think the beauty of Italy is that if you go to Italy, they're also future looking. So there's a side that's very modern in the way they think of things, and thus the inventions, and there's the part that's very historically, very rich, as well. So you could literally walk around Milan or Rome and see something that's 1,000 years old, and see something that's very modern, on the other side as well, and there's no contradiction in that. So let's talk about Italians. My favorite. My favorite. Topic. The Italians. It's not just la dolce vita, but there's something called dolce far niente, right? It's the sweetness of doing nothing, and it's because the Italians understand that the quality of life comes first, right? Which is so whether it's in the preparation of food, or it's in the building of buildings, or it's in the planting, or it's in the fashion, it's in fashion, dressmaking. They take their time to do something and to do it right,
Correct.
right? Thus, the saying Rome was not built in a day, right? It is that it's that enjoyment.
And we have our own rhythm
Yeah,
in doing things because we need to get pleasure out of it.
absolutely.
It's not just doing things. It's not just you cook sugo alla bolognese. We
Yes,
cook 8 hours.
yes,
And you can do it also in an hour,
right.
absolutely. But the pleasure and the result, the
Yes.
pleasure when you eat the pasta with bolognese, it's an explosion of pleasure.
Yes, and when you look at the way Italians, especially the nonnas, prepare a meal, they handle the ingredients with so much love and so much
The
respect.
cuts of the food.
Yes, like when I think of pesto, I think of pesto in a jar, because that's the easiest thing to do. But grinding things very slowly, lovingly to
The
create that.
smell, the
Yes,
smell that get out of it when during this process, like
you know
it's unique.
yes, and I think it's that we talked about the pleasure of cooking. There's also the pleasure of serving and sharing, which the Italians are very known for. It's you could be, we talked about this a lot. I mean, you could be at a piazza, and sitting alone, and somebody talks to you, and all of a sudden you're sharing a pasta with with somebody you didn't even know, right? All it takes, I think, for me, at least for me, I think all it takes is a little buongiorno, and all of a sudden you're family,
Yeah,
right?
and your friend,
Yeah,
exactly.
you get invited to somebody's house, or we're having a party. You come, there's a thing, there's a little celebration, and that's it. It's what's interesting to me also is usually when I see tourists who are in a hurry to get things, whether they're ordering something or they're trying to shop, and
You're not in a good place. In a good place. I'm sorry for that.
but it's the an Italian would take their time, finish what they're doing before they're gonna start something. It's not, if they eat, they sit down and eat, which we hardly do in New York, right? We're always running. It's a friend of mine called me a barbarian. Because he's Italian, and we were looking at properties, and I didn't give him time to eat. I told him, "Get a sandwich. We'll eat on the road." And he says, "Oh my God, you're such a barbarian!" Because who does, who does that kind of thing. But in the Dolce Far Niente side, right? I think of it as you know music. If you look at music, there's the space between the notes, right? And the space between the notes is where you breathe life into music. It's what makes music beautiful. And I think what Italians are really, really good at is filling that note of seeing, right?
Wow, I
From
like it.
for the two, so in between doing things, when they're not doing anything, or if they're waiting for like food to be finished, right? They're enjoying that part of life that in a lot of places, especially in New York, we'll fill that with something else, and we never get to enjoy that, that part of.
And this is something that really, when I talk to people here in New York or like foreigner people, like they really love when they come to Italy. It's just not like a vacation. Like it's they immerse themselves in the life. Like, they become part of the community. It's an experience. Like they come back with these lasting memories, and they think, when am I gonna come back? Like there is always something that brings them back to Italy, because they have this feeling like. Cooking with Italians, like having the aperitivo in the square with all the arts around you, like
And the bell
the
tolling in the
the people
background.
really
Yeah,
makes the
yeah.
difference, I think.
I do think so too, and I think that the people who don't, you know, who don't see that are generally the kind of people who, the tourists that really don't try to understand, the place that they're in. That you don't expect to have the same the same reaction from people, when you go to their place in their home. So, for instance, when people complain to me like, oh, no, people in Venice, they're not very nice. Well, Venice is a tourist place, right? And imagine if you lived in a shopping mall every day and you have to deal with the public every day there all of these questions and all of that stuff. It's difficult. So, but if you look at it from their point of view, right, when you go and visit and you pay the respect and you try to really understand it, Italians are very, very quick to embrace you, I think. And I think that's whether it's because of the vino, so or it's just because I think they're naturally romantic.
Also think like that's why it's very important, if you really want to understand Italy, don't go only to the main city. Like if you want to understand and embrace the culture, like the small town are the best place to really get into it and appreciate it.
And if you also, what I try to do, and I advise people whenever they are traveling, to Italy is the best places to go eat or have a wine or whatever is where the locals go.
Trattoria.
Yeah, the trattoria. They're not very expensive, and the food is not expensive in Italy by any means. It's getting a little bit more now, but literally, like the house wine is much better than any bottle of wine that I can that I most of the wines that I can get here in New York. That's very expensive, because the bread. We talked about I dream about the bread. Every time I come back here, I'm thinking, oh my God, I just want to have a little olive oil on top and a little salt, and it's like fantastic, right?
Simple ingredients.
The simple ingredients, and I think that's the difficult part. People think that, okay, well, you can make pasta. You can just make pasta with olive oil, etc. One, the ingredients are not different because they're fresh. A lot of them are locally grown. When you eat in Italy, if you lived in Italy, you had one bag, you went to the store, you picked up that thing for that day, and you cooked it that day. You didn't put everything in your freezer. You didn't have, I always say the Costco way of like, 30 paper towels and, all of these things that, you can went fresh. And if you go to the market, you got the fresh fish, you got the fresh meat. And the butcher himself will tell you, this is good. This is a good cut. This is what you should buy, right? The cheese, all of these things are important because it adds to the quality of your life, the meaning of life, and there, in whether in film or in music or in art, I think Italians really excel in showing, in showing that, right?
You should be, you are half Italian. I mean, like you should become an Italian.
I know. And also the funny part is like,
What are you doing here in New York? Come on.
we know what working. Well, the great thing about it is when I think of Italy, if you go to Torino, for instance, it's a very different place. And yet, with as big as the city, there are places where you can get gnocchi, where that, where the person who owns it has done it for generations. If you go to Milan, if you go to Florence, these beautiful places that where the food is simply prepared, but making it perfect because it's simple is the most difficult thing, right? The more complicated stuff, it's almost easier to do because if you messed up, no one would ever know, right? But if you do a simple carbonara, right, or gricia, or if you cook the pasta wrong, everything is off, right? So
Olive oil and garlic and spices. It's
exactly
like one of my favorites. It's very, very simple.
And coffee. let's
talk
not
about
forget
it.
the coffee in Italy. There is a there are rules for coffee. The very first thing that I told somebody is like, do not get a cappuccino after 11 o'clock. So, but they're
You must have at least 10 espresso a day.
yes, exactly. And also they, I'm not kidding when I say that it's they take it very seriously. A friend of mine, I was at his house and I was talking to his wife, and he said, "Do you want espresso, Lori?" I said, "Yes, yes, I do." And he made espresso, and the wife and I were talking like this, and we kept on talking, and he got very upset. He said, "Because espresso is getting cold." It's I think it's that kind of I think Italians, we've said before, they don't work, they don't live to work. They work to live. It is a function of life, but the main purpose is to really enjoy life. It could be difficult, but the thing about Italy is that a difficult life does not have to be an ugly life. It could be everything in what they do and what they think. They're always searching for that, for that beauty, right? Anywhere you go.
Pleasure seekers.
Yes, absolutely. And also, talk about, how beautiful, you can do is also be while being very innovative. My friend, has a place called Orsolina 28, which is the premier dance center in the world, where they go to do summer workshops from all over the world, all of these beautiful dancers. And they built this beautiful stage overlooking this, great view of the mountains. But also, they have like a little bit of a wellness place as well. So they have two swimming pools. And it's the first time I've ever seen this. The pools are filtered by plants. There are no chemicals, right? And that kind of enjoying nature, being innovative, but also very luxurious, right? In Italy, these are not contradictory. These are all, and they can be done in a way that's also affordable. It's not it's not so overly expensive.
Yeah.
And so we can talk about Italy for forever. What other things should we think about when if you're living in Italy? What other things do you think people might not know, or would not be familiar, or what should they expect? Well, now that you've lived in New York, let's assume a New Yorker goes over to Italy. One is definitely not the pace. It's no instantaneous gratification. There's always going to be. The Italians will take their time.
I think you go to Italy because it's a beautiful country, but also because you slow down and you get to appreciate and look things on with another perspective. Life is one.
Yeah.
And of course, we are not perfect. Italians are not perfect. Italy is not perfect. But it's really give you a variety of option that it's difficult to find in another place. You go from the mountain to the sea, little town in the middle of nothing, and you just live with local, but at the same time you can go and buy a super luxury place in Milan.
I think it's the offerings of Italy. It's so much more accessible. To somebody who's open, to it, because as we talked about, the different regions, you literally an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours away, and you're like in a different place in a different time.
Completely.
Right? Like Florence and Rome. For instance, Rome, being what it is, if you wanted a 2,000 year, etc. That's there. But if you go to Florence or Siena, for instance, right?
Everyone talk about Florence, but Siena, you get into another world.
Yes. And it's these are all things that, at your fingertips. You don't have to plan so much. You can buy a place somewhere and within a few hours you could have all of these day excursions to pretty much anywhere in Italy and still be back on the same day. It's
I grew up like every single family. You don't have to be rich to have this kind of lifestyle. But during the summer, we go at the beach every weekend, and during the winter, we go to ski into the mountain like every weekend. Like we're gonna get everything.
right. Not everybody is in Sardinia, right? That's
Yeah.
in Capri or in Sardinia, and every and also wherever there is access to water, and people are there. So it doesn't. You're not planning to be in
Can
like
be a
one
river,
part.
it can be a small lake.
Exactly.
We
It's really
always
beautiful.
find a way to create our own space and our own happiness.
Yes, and enjoy life in a very authentic, in a very genuine, very romantic, a very sophisticated, if I may say so, way. And whether it's in art or in music or in architecture or all of these things, if you pay attention, I think in Italy, you could spend a whole lifetime and not be able to experience everything. So I do have one question, for you, before we go. Has anyone in Italy thought about perhaps Don Matteo is a serial killer? Because everywhere he goes, there's somebody
Something
dead.
happened.
Right?
Something happened.
So I have a feeling that he's the one. But
I'm so impressed that you watched Don Matteo. It makes me so happy.
I love Don Matteo. To be honest, I watch Italian shows, and I've watched a lot of Italian TV and Italian movies. And I think part of the reason is it could be a simple TV series, but the Italians on the cinematography part, right, of the actual filming part, whether it's just like a cigarette burning or something, they take the time to shoot that scene because it feels so good and cinematic and dramatic. Whereas others would just go and quickly get by, and then I think that with the background of like Commissario Montalbano, I love Sicily just looking at where he swims every day. So I think
house.
yeah, oh my God, I love that house. I want that house one of these days. Well, the last thing before we end this is what's interesting with Italy is apart from all these things is also the Italian language as a way of telling you the culture, right? And in Italy, we don't, ciao is both, goodbye and hello. But it also, if you really want to say goodbye, you say arrivederci,
Arrivederci.
arrivederci, versus goodbye, which is see you, really see you soon, right? And I think that's a very authentic thing. And then that's what I think what's happens in Italy is that you see it once and you want to come back and you want to come back and you want to come back and you want to come back. So if you're really smart, you should really just buy.
Buy, definitely. And have your own place.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the biggest thing. It could be as big as a villa and make your own olive
In
oil.
Italy, you can spend 500 up to millions.
Yeah,
like, you
exactly.
can have your own label of wine.
Yeah.
Your olive oil.
Yes, and the only problem with the label of wine is like how much of that is going to come out that you didn't drink yourself. Well, on that note, thank you, grazie mille.
Grazie a te.
So, thank you very much for being here, and we shall see you soon. I certainly will see you in Italy. Hopefully, in one of the we sell one of these beautiful villas that we have all over, and we could celebrate with not just a glass of vino, but we have a fiesta,
Obviously.
a festa in the piazza.
Il festival.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. That's it for us for Peace and Good Wealth. This is Lloyd Carlos wishing you peace and good wealth.